Okay, good evening. My name is Rian Rodriguez, and I'm the Putnam County Director of Public Health. I'd like to welcome the Putnam County community at large, both here in person and those viewing from home, for your interest in contributing to the framework that will define how we manage solid waste as a community. Before we get started, I just have a few housekeeping items. First, please silence all electronic devices. This session is being recorded and will be available on the county's YouTube channel. Emergency exits are located here to your right, so my left, and the way you can come in and exit is through the back entrance of the auditorium. Restrooms are outside of the auditorium in the hallway to the right as well. Today's format will begin with a presentation on the L Swamp, followed by time for questions and comments. We ask that you hold all questions until the end. And when prompted, please step up to the microphone. Questions and comments made today may not be answered immediately, but more details will be provided during the presentation. Thank you for your attention, and with those process items covered, I'd like to introduce Savannah Usher, Solid Waste Program Manager at the Department of Health.
Brian.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Savannah Usher, and I am the Solid Waste Program Manager with the Putnam County Department of Health. Thank you all for taking the time to join me as I present Putnam County's 2025-2034 Local Solid Waste Management Plan, what we often refer to as the L Swamp. This plan represents months of research and collaboration to outline how the county manages waste and how we will continue to do so responsibly and sustainably over the next decade. This presentation is meant to provide an overview of the plan, how it was developed, what's included, and what comes next. I will review each chapter and then explain how the public comment period is formatted. But before I get into the plan's contents, I've got some housekeeping of my own because I don't like to start something without level setting the group. I don't think it's fair to understand that or assume that anyone understands the key terms or motivations for this plan. So before we get into the contents, I will do a quick review. So we'll start with what is solid waste. Solid waste refers to municipal solid waste, which are discarded materials that are no longer useful or wanted, anything from packaging and paper to food scraps, broken furniture, and old electronics. It's generated by homes, businesses, institutions, and industries and is managed through collection, recycling, disposal, or composting. The bins you see here represent how different types of waste can be separated for proper management, helping us to recover valuable resources instead of sending them to landfills. Now, when waste isn't managed responsibly, the consequences extend far beyond overflowing bins. It can pollute our air, soil, and water, posing serious risks to public health by attracting pests or releasing harmful chemicals into the environment. Poor waste management also drives up disposal costs, consumes valuable land, and as organic waste decomposes in landfills, releasing methane, which is a greenhouse gas that is over 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide, it can significantly worsen our climate impact. Each of us has a role to play in safeguarding the environment and creating a healthier, more sustainable future for everyone. That's why understanding what solid waste is and how we handle it is essential to effective planning. In 2023, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, or as I will refer to frequently, the DEC, adopted the New York State Solid Waste Management Plan, known as the Beyond Waste Plan. This plan lays out the statewide vision and sets the stage for how materials should be managed through 2032 for the entire state of New York. This guides counties and municipalities in their local solid waste planning efforts. The state's plan focuses on 5 key areas: waste reduction and reuse, recycling and market development, product stewardship and extended producer responsibility, or EPR, and toxic reduction in products. By identifying these focus areas, the state aims to conserve natural resources, cut pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, and build stronger, more sustainable communities. Now, building on that statewide vision, I'm going to walk you through the next step down, which is the Local Solid Waste Management Plan, or LSWAP, which is essentially the roadmap at the local level for how a planning unit will manage waste over the next 10 years. The LSWAP is composed with guidance from the New York State DEC, looking at where waste comes from, how it's managed, and how solid waste and recycling practices can improve. Throughout this presentation, and as you read the plan, the term planning unit is used frequently. That's just how the DEC refers to who is responsible for the LSWAM. So when I say, or you see, planning unit, that means Putnam County. And this isn't just a fill in the blank plan either. Each county or planning unit must carefully review its current waste system, explore better options, and lay out a 10-year implementation schedule. But there is also a very specific approval process that has to take place in order for this plan to even be recognized by the state. So we'll take a quick look at this, how this plan gets approved and where your feedback fits in. So first comes first, we have to draft the plan. And with that, I'd like to recognize the many people and organizations who have helped make this possible. This work would not have been possible without the support of our county executive, the county legislature, the town supervisors and village mayors, the local sanitation staff, the county's planning department and Department of Public Works, Cornell Cooperative Extension, and Sustainable Putnam, just to name a few. Their insight over the last 10 months helped us understand our current systems as we gathered our research and develop a plan that reflects our community's needs while shaping realistic strategies for improvement. Now that the plan is drafted, we must host a 45-day public comment period, and well, that's why we're all here today. All comments received will be reviewed and summarized in a responsiveness summary, which will be Appendix 2 in the final version of the plan. This step ensures that we hear directly from the people and communities most affected by the plan. Your input will help make the plan stronger and more responsive to local needs. After any revisions are made following the public comment period, we will send the updated plan to the DEC for review, which can take anywhere and 128 days. Once it is approved, or when it is approved, the department will present the plan to the legislature for adoption. If the plan does require substantial revisions after this public comment period takes place or at the DEC's request when we submit it for that completeness review, we'll have to go through this public comment period all over again, revise, and resubmit for an additional 30 to 128 days before it can be adopted. If you haven't viewed the plan yet, the plan can be viewed by visiting the Putnam County Health Department's website, Putnam Recycles, under the Local Solid Waste Management Plan tab. The document you see here in the middle that says Putnam County, New York, is the plan itself. So when you click on that, it will open into a PDF document that you can view on your chosen device. For those who do not have access to the internet or who prefer a paper copy to read, please visit your local town hall or library where we have provided a printed copy of the plan. You can even come to the health department, hang out in our lobby and read it if you'd like to. So there are 7 chapters in this plan, and I will now start to take you through a brief overview of each of these chapters. Are you guys ready to talk trash? I couldn't phrase it. In chapter 1, we provide a pretty in-depth background on who we are as a planning unit because understanding our geography and our infrastructure is essential to developing a plan that fits the local context. This chapter includes details on our size and geographic location, the population we serve, and the population density, the municipalities impacted by this plan, the administrative and financial structure of the solid waste and recycling program in Putnam County. It also outlines our neighboring jurisdictions and planning units, as well as major industries and generators, including the largest employers, parks, schools, and planning unit members. For the purposes of this plan, we are using a population estimate of approximately 97,600 people. And that's based on the most recent American Community Survey data. More detailed information on population density and demographic trends is included in the plan, but this figure provides a solid baseline for the understanding the scale of waste generation and the services required across Putnam County. Now, unlike many counties in New York State, Putnam County's solid waste program is operated through the Department of Health's Environmental Health Services Division rather than through the Department of Public Works, Highway, or a solid waste commission. So as a result, the health department serves as the lead agency and official planning unit member for this plan. However, success depends on strong collaboration among towns, county departments, and community partners, and we recognize the vital role of these collaborators throughout the planning and implementation process. The municipalities that make up the planning unit include Carmel, including Mayapack, Kent, including Lake Carmel, Patterson, Putnam Valley, Southeast, and the village of Brewster, and Phillipstown, including the villages of Cold Spring and Nelsonville. Further description of each community's unique characteristics and waste management practices are provided in Chapter 3. We'll get there. This chapter also identifies our neighboring jurisdictions, Dutchess County to the north, the state of Connecticut to the east, and Westchester County to the south. These neighboring jurisdictions will be important partners as we begin to implement the activities outlined in our action plan and seek regional collaboration. We now turn to Chapter 2, which focuses on the data behind our waste generation and materials recovery, which is critical for shaping effective strategies moving forward. Within Putnam County's towns and villages, residents and businesses generated a diverse range of waste types. The data in this table is reported by haulers who are submitting the Putnam County solid waste and septic waste hauler permit application and renewals. The data you see here in this table is from 2024. The MSW represented in this table is primarily from households and commercial refuse, totaling almost 79,000 tons. The items that are highlighted in this light green color represent the waste diverted, accounting for between 8 and 9% of the solid waste tonnage reported here in Putnam County. And just below that, you'll see that construction and demolition, or C&D debris, heavily dominates the county's waste profile. And that's okay, because this represents an excellent opportunity for better recycling in the future. Now, as you read this plan, you'll notice that throughout the plan, there are data gaps and informational needs sections. These gaps and needs are our opportunity for enhancement, and we do have a lot of them when it comes to data collection, which is why this chapter is so brief. So to improve in the future, some of our efforts will focus on increasing consistency among hauler reports to strengthen countywide waste tracking and transparency, expanding reporting coverage across all waste types, offering the chance to build a more complete picture of materials flows, and introducing municipally specific data collection to enable more targeted local programs to enhance recycling quality and help measure community engagement. So now that we've completed the discussion on the data that we have and how we will improve moving forward, Chapter 3 is going to take us on a journey through Putnam County's waste management system. While the DEC's template for this chapter begins with the facilities that receive waste, I think it makes a lot more sense if we look at how the waste actually gets there first. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to flip that chapter. So to haul waste in Putnam County, both solid and septic, a hauler must obtain a permit by submitting to the health department. The permitting process that is followed is designed to ensure compliance with both the Putnam County Code and the New York State Environmental Conservation Law. This keeps waste operations consistent, transparent, and environmentally responsible while holding haulers accountable to the same standards across the county. When it comes to collection, waste management looks a little different depending on where you live. We have 3 town-run sanitation programs located in Lake Carmel, Lake Peekskill, and Patterson. These towns operate their own collection services, meaning they handle waste pickup directly for their residents. The other towns take one of 2 approaches. Some bid on behalf of their residents to secure a single hauler for the entire community, while others allow residents to choose their own private waste collection company. And this is just how things have been done since the last 2 plans were adopted, and giving the municipalities the ability to make decisions that best fit their size and community needs, as well as their budget. The final piece of this system is public education. This effort is shared by many partners. At the health department, we work to provide materials to our residents by our website, social media, and through promotional and educational materials. But local haulers, the recycling centers, schools, and community organizations like Sustainable Putnam and the Cornell Cooperative Extension also share this responsibility. Combined, our efforts promote awareness of recycling, composting, and waste reduction through community events, school programs, and informational campaigns. And now for the number one question I get every time I walk into a room. Where does our waste go? And to answer that, it helps to break things down by facility type, because where our waste ends up depends on what kind of waste it is and how it's handled after it leaves the curb. So first, we'll talk about transfer facilities. These are the backbone of Putnam County's waste system, especially since we don't have any active landfills or waste to energy facilities here within the county. Both within and outside of the planning unit, there are several types of transfer stations that process the waste generated by Putnam County residents. Some handle septic waste, while others focus on materials recovery, like construction and demolition debris, scrap metal and recyclables, and e-waste. These facilities serve as local collection points where waste is consolidated before being transported to a larger regional or state processing and disposal site. Within the planning unit, we have 3 municipal recycling centers in Kent, Patterson, and Phillipstown. These centers collect, sort, and transfer recyclable materials, helping to keep valuable resources out of landfills. While they are technically registered as transfer facilities, they operate a bit differently. 1, because they don't store municipal solid waste, and 2, they only serve residents of their respective towns. Once the waste is sorted or the recyclables are sorted at these facilities, they are sent to larger transfer stations outside the planning unit for final processing or transport. Then we have organics management. We currently don't have any organics management processing facilities within the planning unit. So that means that materials like food scraps, leaves, and yard waste are transported for composting and processing facilities outside of Putnam County. And before we get to landfills, we're going to talk about waste to energy. Although there's no waste to energy or WTE facility in Putnam County, these facilities are an important part of the regional waste system. Waste to energy plants combust non-recyclable municipal solid waste to generate electricity. This process reduces the volume of waste that ultimately ends up in landfills and recovers energy from materials that would otherwise be discarded. And finally, landfills. As I said, we do not have any active landfills here in Putnam County, but there are 9 inactive sites that are monitored by some that are monitored by the New York State DEC for environmental safety. But just because we don't have landfills here doesn't mean our waste doesn't ever go to one. There are 3 landfills that process municipal solid waste, C&D, and other non-hazardous waste from Putnam County, and that is the Chemung Landfill in Elmira, New York, Seneca Meadows Landfill in Waterloo, New York, and New Lexington Landfill in Ohio. These facilities are permitted to accept waste from our region and serve as the final destination for materials that can't be reused, recycled, or composted. In this chapter, you'll find that whether it's municipal solid waste, recyclables, organics, or construction and demolition debris, everything leaves the county. The tables in this chapter detail the types and quantities of waste generated by Putnam and other planning units and where that waste is processed or disposed of. Understanding where waste goes is only half the story, though, because the other half is the regulatory structure that ensures everything is done safely and consistently. In this chapter, we go through all of the regulations that affect our planning unit. And you're welcome, because these codes are thick. But the reality is, because solid waste management practices are shaped by several layers of regulation. It's not that cut and dry. But at the top is the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, parts 350 through 377, which sets statewide standards for handling, recycling, composting, and landfill management, ensuring consistency and environmental protection across the state. At the county level, we have Chapter 205 of the Putnam County Code that outlines requirements for hauler permits, source separation of recyclables, and penalties for violations. This ensures that everyone, haulers, facilities, and residents, follow the same rules. Each municipality has its own sanitation and recycling ordinances, and those are tailored to their needs. Some even include zoning regulations that affect where facilities can be located. Looking ahead, we know that there are new amendments at the state level that are being considered to strengthen these regulations. We expect upcoming extended producer responsibility, or EPR, laws to cover items like polystyrene coolers, carpets, mattresses, and paper packaging. As part of this plan, we will be evaluating the county's solid waste code and working with the legislature if any revisions need to be made. Here's Chapter 5. As part of the 2025-2034 Solid Waste Management Plan, Putnam County evaluated 15 program areas, the one you see here on the slide. These categories are defined by the New York State DEC and guide every county's planning process. They cover everything from waste reduction and reuse to recycling enforcement and recycling market developments. While not every category will move forward right away or even at all in our planning unit, each was carefully evaluated for feasibility, cost, environmental benefit, and how well it aligns with the county and state goals. For today, I'll focus on just 3 examples, one that is a reinvigoration from the previous planning period, one that brings a new state-supported initiative to Putnam County, and one that will answer many of the questions our office filters on a daily basis. The first is the Zero Waste Challenge that started under our previous plan. This will be an interactive and educational campaign that will expand countywide to help residents, schools, and businesses reduce what they throw away through better purchasing, reuse, and prevention. The second is the Vape Disposal Pilot Program, which Putnam County was invited to join through a partnership between the New York State DEC, Center for Sustainable Materials Management, and the Product Stewardship Institute. This pilot is going to address the growing problem of vape waste, especially devices that contain lithium batteries and acute hazardous chemicals. And our participation in this pilot program will help shape future state policies. The last improvement is going to be the creation of a countywide reuse and recycling directory, which will be an enhancement to our website, eventually making it a one-stop resource that helps residents find where items can be donated, repaired, recycled, or properly disposed of, and explains how many materials can be reused or recycled. This tool will make it easier for the community to keep valuable materials out of our waste stream. So how are we going to do this? Under New York State DEC's LSWAMP guidelines, every county's plan must include a clear schedule of actions on a timeline for carrying out both new and ongoing waste management activities over the next decade. Included in this schedule are a full range of activities that we've categorized into 6 areas. That's the LSWAMP, solid waste program activities, education and outreach, program evaluation, recycling program, and collaboration and partnerships. The activities identified are based on the alternatives evaluation. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The activities identified are based on the alternatives evaluation, program evaluation, and community needs as identified by our partners. The implementation schedule was designed to remain flexible, which will allow us to adjust priorities based on new funding, partnerships, or state mandates that may emerge. Each year, progress will be tracked and reported through biennial updates submitted to the New York State DEC, ensuring continuous improvement throughout the planning period of 25 through 2034. Now, as we move into the final chapter of the plan, we shift from implementation to projection. And this is where we take a look ahead and estimate how much waste Putnam County is expected to generate over the next decade and how effectively we can recover and divert materials through recycling, composting, and reuse. Now, these projections were developed using the New York State DEC's population and waste composition calculator, which is their official tool for forecasting waste generation and diversion over a 10-year period. And it standardizes how every county in New York State is going to report the projection data and ensure consistency statewide. Based on the calculator's analysis, Putnam's population is expected to decline slightly, about 0.2% per year through 2034. From there, you'll see the calculator's projection on how that change affects both waste generation and diversion as you go through each step of this calculator. These projections, along with the programs, policies, and actions outlined throughout this plan, provide a clear, data-driven path forward for managing waste responsibly and sustainably across the county. So now that I've talked about our goals and programs, data and projections, it is the public comments that are truly integral to this plan. Hearing from the people who live, work, and run businesses here in Putnam County helps ensure that what we've proposed is both realistic and responsive to the community's needs. Your input helps us identify opportunities, refine ideas, and make sure the final version of this plan reflects the full range of perspectives it's meant to serve. So how can I comment, you ask? From November 17th through December 31st of 2025, there are 3 easy ways to share your comments during the 45-day public comment period. The first is to call the health department at 845-808-1390, extension 43164, where you'll be directed to a voicemail box dedicated to collecting comments and questions on the contents of the plan. Every message will be reviewed and transcribed for inclusion in the responsiveness summary I mentioned earlier. The second is to submit comments online using the electronic form available on the Putnam Recycles website, right next to where you found that plan. You can also access it easily by scanning the QR code on the slide. And the third is here in person. So for those of you joining us today, we'll open the floor shortly so you can step up to the mic and share your thoughts or questions. Responses to comments and questions will be addressed in the final responsiveness summary in the plan. So if you don't get an immediate response or a direct response, it will be in the final version. And for the last time, thank you for joining me for the presentation on the Putnam County Local Solid Waste Management Plan. So for those of you who are here in person and would like to make a comment or ask a question, that'll be included in the responsiveness summary. You can make a line right here in the aisle next to Rian. The microphone here on the podium will pick you up, but we will turn this microphone around so that we can, in the room, hear your questions. If you have more than one question, that is great as well. Yeah. Good. Okay. I think we can move it up too while it's. Okay. Perfect. Good. All right.
Hey, thank you. Joe Montori from Sustainable Putnam. I want to thank you for all the work you put into this. We've talked together about this process and, working with you has been a great experience, and congratulations on getting this done so quickly.
Thank you.
I know it's a lot of work. I did have a couple of questions and maybe one comment. You mentioned, I think 10% diversion rate.
Yes.
Approximately.
8 to 9%.
8 to 9%. And that represents really recycling, right? Okay. Seems low, and obviously a lot of room for improvement there, but I know that that's really the point of this whole process. So that's good. My understanding is that a lot of other counties in our region, in the Mid-Hudson region, oversee a lot more of, the waste management than Putnam County does. And so obviously a lot more of that is shouldered by our towns. And so I'm just wondering if you have a thought about, and obviously this is a big question, but if you have a thought right now about the extent to which, towns can do a better job of maybe collaborating and working with your office and trying to improve, how we handle solid waste in this county.
Yes. Not to directly answer the question, but also to point into the plan. Joe, you're right. The towns do shoulder a lot of the responsibility for waste management in Putnam County. And that's why part of the implementation schedule, that collaborations and partnership section is really going to grow to engage the towns and to promote more collaboration, as well as understand the impact on the towns based on, and how the county can offset those responsibilities. So there's not a lot of detail in the plan for that because it hasn't taken place yet.
Thank you.
No problem.
And then one other question is, you mentioned that some landfills are monitored by DEC. What about the other ones?
So that's a great question for the New York State DEC. And in that section of the plan, it does, the table was provided by the DEC and they say what is being monitored, where is being monitored and what is being monitored for. So we don't monitor them.
Gotcha. Okay, and then last is a comment, just that I'm really excited to continue working with you on this. As Sustainable Putnam. I think it's really encouraging that you're interested in working with a nonprofit organization outside of, our government offices themselves. So,
Collaboration
you.
is key.
exactly.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Stacy Dumont. I'm a Patterson resident, and I'm a member of Sustainable Putnam, and I'm also a town board elect. I'm curious about if food scrap recycling is going to be expanded into other than fruit and vegetable peels and other. And if it is, how will that be implemented? I know that the county has been talking about that, but will there be a structured, consistent program throughout the towns? Or do you see it as being up to the towns to implement their own community food scrap? Not necessarily at the door, but more like a drop-off community food scrap recycling.
Excellent questions. As of right now, the conversations for food scrap recycling are going to be based on feasibility, and that will take place once the collaborative focus groups are underway with the municipalities and any other interested organizations that may be able to assist with getting food scrap recycling programs off the ground in general. And then the expansion is going to obviously depend on the infrastructure of those programs. So that'll be the implementation schedule and those biennial updates.
Okay, and that would be the town initiating the contact, or will it be like an assignment of each town in the county?
I can't say at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Okay.
questions.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. And when do you foresee, or maybe you might not know this, but the municipalities starting to become involved? Is it, so it's after that, is during this process, or is it after the 120, day?
Excellent question. So the municipalities have been engaged as part of the composition of the plan for the components that are respective to their municipalities. But moving forward, once the plan is adopted, the implementation schedule does outline the timeline for when that may begin, and it may shift slightly depending on when this plan is adopted, once we get through the review period, depending on how long the DEC takes to review it, and
Okay.
once we can adopt.
All right, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Hello, Karen.
Hi, Karen Erdl, just Karen Erdl from Phillipstown. I may have missed it in the presentation, so I apologize if I did, but it sounded as though all of our waste goes away. In this new plan, will there be an emphasis on us beginning to take responsibility in one way or another for the waste that we are producing? And possibly, a composting center, a county composting center, or, whatever other form it may take. But rather than shipping it out to other people to deal with, in addition to reducing the waste, is there going to be any emphasis on us taking responsibility in some way?
That is an excellent question, and the response is to be decided based on all of the assessments that are going to take place once we get the plan adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Good. All right. To all of you who asked a question, thank you very much. And if you have any other thoughts, comments, or questions that may come up over the duration of the public comment period, please do not hesitate to call the department 43164 or submit that electronic form. Thank you.